still think the Santa Barbara could look like an Oaks filly.
She's going to be a cracking filly over 7 furlongs.
She's going to take all the beating, Jack.
You're right, Sam. I do think my bet of the week comes here, and that's who you were going to bring out.
It's in my notes. It's in my notes. Biggest price selection that Jack and I both agree on. Hello and welcome to the Next Gen Racing YouTube channel for our review of the Guineas weekend at Newmarket and also our preview of the May Festival at Chester. And before we get started into this video, we just want to thank everyone. Over the weekend, we did hit 500 subscribers on the channel. Jack and I are going to plan a giveaway. We're probably going to do that when we launch our new studio on June the 3rd. We'll talk about that later on in the video, but we'll get straight into talking about the weekend, and we'll start with the 2000 Guineas, which was won by Poetic Flair. Kevin Manning rode the horse, trained by Jim Bolger. Master of the Seas for the Appleby Buick team was in second, and Lucky Vega for Jessica Harrington in third. Now, Jack, it was a bit of a disappointment in my opinion. What this weekend, we'll get into the 1000 in a minute, but what this weekend's told me at the moment is that the crop of 3-year-olds that we've got really isn't fantastic, and I think we're still waiting to see a star from the 3-year-olds, potentially at Chester or potentially sort of, at the Dante meeting next week. Jack, your opinion on some of the disappointments in that race?
Yeah, I mean, as you said before we came on, if you flip the result the other way around, we would have said it was probably a brilliant 2000 Guineas, but it was a really odd one. I think it was probably a result of an interrupted 2-year-old campaign. They didn't raise as much. Who knows what trainers had to adapt to train them as a 2-year-old. So I think that was kind of showing here. Poetic Flair, of course, it was a great win with Master of the Seas. I thought Master of the Seas actually had it first time I watched it, but of course he didn't. I was convinced Lucky Vega wouldn't stay, but I mean, he did, and he did really nicely. Naval Crown ran a really nice race, but yeah, I mean, when you look at Wembley, Battleground, Thunder Moon, I mean, Ballydor have had an absolute shocker, really. I mean, watching Thunder Moon and Wembley not find anything down the dip was a bit of a disappointment, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. I mean, Thunder Moon finishing last. Wembley was 11th. Battleground was backed off the boards before the race. ITV were reporting a huge bet on the horse. That finished 13th. And I do think that potentially the better horse from the race could come from the back of that field. From those 3, you might end up finding those horses end up to be better than the winner. I do think that the best horse in there that I could see going forward out of the top 3 will be Master of the Seas, currently installed as the St James's Palace favourite. Potentially that could be a good distance for that horse, over 1.2 miles. Even if that horse went for a Prix de Jockey Club, I'd quite fancy him over there. Whether they sort of take that route, I don't know. But yeah, congratulations to the winner of the 2000 Guineas. Will take nothing away. It was a thrilling finish. But in mine and Jack's opinions, we definitely think that it was a bit of disappointment, and we're hoping for better 3-year-olds later in the season. Right, on to the 1000 Guineas now, and I will just apologise for my voice this week. I have got a bit of a cold. You couldn't make it up, actually. A sunburn last week and a cold this weekend. You just couldn't make it up. But the 1000, it's just horrendous, Jack. I'm gonna get through this video as quick as I can. But the 1000 Guineas result: Mother Earth was your winner for the Ballydor team, ridden by Frankie Dettori, the maestro at the age of 50, still doing what he does best. Saffron Beach for Adam Kirby and Jane Chevelle-Heim. That was a really, really great finish from that horse there. And Fev Rover, well supported, actually. He was in third. I know a lot of people fancied that horse. Santa Barbara, the horse that, Ballydor had said is the next big thing, only had the one run, winning a maiden. That horse finished 4th, and I wouldn't say that was too much of a disappointment from that horse. Finished 4th in a classic after just a maiden win. And Alcohol Free was absolutely hammered in the betting for Oshie Murphy. That horse finished 5th. Jack, again, I don't know whether it's too much of a disappointment. I'd say potentially we've got some better fillies than we have colts from the Guineas weekends. I'd still think the Santa Barbara could look like an Oaks filly. I do think still she's way too short. You'd probably be hoping, if you're a punter, that she would drift for the Oaks after that run, but she hasn't really done so too much. Mother Earth potentially could be the star in here. Did finish really well and won the race well. What are your opinions on this one?
Yeah, I think, as you say, I think the crop of fillies are a lot better than the crop of colts we've got. I think there was a lot of good performances. It was great to see Frankie Dettori make that winning move down the outside with Mother Earth. I mean, that was the difference on the day. Also, it was great to see that the combined age of the jockeys 104 from the winning Guineas. course, the Kevin Manning's 54. But I thought Santa Barbara ran an okay race. Clearly needed the run. She'll obviously stay further. So again, you say 4-1. I think you've got for the Oaks now. It's still stupidly short. If she went off 6-1 for the Guineas and finished fourth, you'd be saying hello. She has a really good chance for the Oaks, perhaps not there. And also, it just goes to say, we say it so many times, that these inside information drifts getting smashed in. Mother Earth was drifting like a barge before the off, and of course goes and bolts up. Santa Barbara drifted on the day, but of course should never have been 5-2 on form. So of course my Vadream I'm going to talk about. I think she's run an absolute stormer from the back of the field yet again. Broke slowly. Jamie Spencer was patient out the back, got her into a brilliant rhythm, and I do think she's going to be a cracking filly over 7 furlongs. Likewise, Sacred. I think Tom Marquand's run an okay race and a filly who we weren't too sure was going to stay. And likewise, Statement. I think those three in the middle of the pack there will be good fillies, perhaps over 7 furlongs or a stretch a mile.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we've got some decent 7 furlong fillies in there. A few that just didn't quite seem to stay. But that's mine and Jack's opinions on the Guineas from Newmarket at the weekend. Right, we move on to the Chester May Festival preview now. We're going to be looking at the big races leading up to the big one on Friday, the Chester Cup, which we're looking forward to. And a great weeks of action. We'll kick things off with the Cheshire Oaks, which is a listed contest over the extended mile and 3 furlongs. Zayadar is your 3-1 favourite. Delectable You is 7-2. Dubai Fountain is joint 7-2 there. Nicest for Donna O'Brien and Ryan Moore is 4-1. La Joconde is 10-1. A Handful of Summers is 18-1. And Quenelle D'Or is 20-1. Jack, I'll kick things off here and I'll say there's a horse in here that I actually really, really fancy. It's not sort of too many horses on the card that I'd actually be having a bet on over the week, but I do like this Dubai Fountain for Mark Johnson, the King of Chester, Franny Norton. Just a neck behind the 1,000 Guineas winner, Mother Earth, in the Fillies Mile at Newmarket. Prior to that, finishing behind Indigo Girl as well. God knows how good Pretty Gorgeous and Indigo Girl might be. I'm really looking forward to seeing them come out. Unfortunately, we didn't see Pretty Gorgeous in the 1,000 Guineas. But Jack, I don't know if you share the same opinion, but this horse did look like he had a really decent chance.
Yeah, I completely agree. Of course, I do love a Ryan Moore, Donna Brian filly with Fancy Blue last year. I won't be signing with Nicest this time, though. I do like Dubai Fountain, as you say. I think the Fillies Mile was the best 2-year-old fillies form we have last year. And, of course, she won on debut as well, so hopefully the reappearance shouldn't be too much. She's by Teofilo. She's a half-sister to Leon Cavallo, so will definitely stay the trip. And I think, yeah, she does have a good chance at around 7-2. I couldn't really take Zayadar or Zayada, however you like to call her. I couldn't really take her. And Delectable You, I think the recent run is a bonus over the others. But I mean, on the bare form, I will be signing with Dubai Fountain.
Yeah, it looks like a really hot contest, but I would be fancy with Dubai Fountain. Obviously, the one thing with Chester is that draws are very key, a very, very tight track. Unfortunately, we've only got the draws for the Wednesday at the moment, and we've had that advantage previewing these, but drawn in 3 for the Johnson team. I think Dubai Fountain's going to go and win the Cheshire Oaks. Right, the next race on the Wednesday that we're going to look at is the Chester Vase, which is over 1.5 miles. So Lamorak is your 6-4 favourite for the Ballydoyle team. Verco is 7-2. Youth Spirit is 6-1. Law of Sea 7-1. Fairly Man 9-1. Fancy Man 9-1. Sandhurst 10-1. Pleasant Man 14s. And San Martino 33-1. It's the first time I think I've seen Franny Norton aboard an Aidan O'Brien horse. I don't think I've seen that before. But Jack, we've got a fairly hot favourite here in Sir Lamorak for the Ballydoyle team. Do you think we're going to potentially get a star 3-year-old here?
Yeah, I think we could do perhaps. I mean, Aidan O'Brien's won this 6 of the last 7 years, and I mean his course record at Chester is impeccable. I mean, since 2011, he operates at a 42% strike rate, which is profit to a £1 stake of £10.30 something, I think. But yeah, he takes quite a few here, as you say, up to 33-1. But the way Sir Lamorak came from the back of the field at Leopardstown on his last start was very classy. I think the step up to 1.5 miles shouldn't be a problem. And he is probably the one to beat, but he is a little bit short for me. Probably won't be piling in at 6-4. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Worko. I know he beat Uncle Bryn last time at Epsom latest, and or Youth Spirit. I don't know how much he's improved from his 2-year-old campaign, which I think is probably the best 2-year-old campaign out of the lot here. But for me, Law of the Sea is the one I was impressed with at Leicester over a mile and a half last time out with Benoit de la Salle on board. He stuck to the task really nicely, he stuck his neck out, and I think he'll probably outrun his odds. I think he's about 7-8 to 1 at the moment. I mean, at the moment we've got 8 runners in there, so if there's 8 runners on the day, I think 3 places for Law of the Sea to outrun his odds of 7-8 to 1 is the play I'll be going for. But if we probably go less than 8 runners, it will be Sir Lamorak for me.
Okay, yeah, I was actually between the 2 Godolphin horses as well, but I ended up siding with this Verco, who beat the Dee Stakes favourite. We'll get into the Dee Stakes in a minute in Uncle Bryn, like you said. The horse was actually outpaced at one stage in that race and actually stayed on really nicely and got there towards the finish. The one worry I would have, I had to go back and look at how many runners Charlie Appleby has had at Chester in the last 5 years, and it's not a track he seems to be a massive fan of. He's had 12 runners there in the last 5 years with only 2 winners, which fascinated me. I would have thought he'd have a lot more, but it's not a track he often goes to. We often see him at the big tracks, obviously, the likes of Ascot, Goodwood, Newmarket, and York and Doncaster and all that. But I would give him a chance. I thought he proved that he stayed that day over a mile 2, and I just think that this extra step up's really going to help him. But this Lamorak could be a superstar, but I just think it's worth taking on at that short price of 6 to 4. Right, we move on to the Thursday now, and that's the Dee Stakes over a mile and a quarter. Your favourite here is Uncle Bryn. We talked about him earlier, 7 to 2 favourite. Adire is 4 to 1. Maximal is 9 to 2. Loch Derg is 5 to 1. Ontario is 5 to 1. Yabir is 6s and 10 to 1. And bigger the rest. Now, Buick, there are again 2 Godolphin horses in here for Appleby. Buick is aboard Yabir, looking at it after looking at the Racing Post today. However, Jack and I were talking before, but Adire was a real horse to note from that classic trial at Sandown. He did look really good, and if he does go here, I do think he's going to take all the beating, Jack. Are you in the same opinion?
Yeah, spot on. I think Godolphin do hold a strong hand here with Adayar and Yabir 2nd and 3rd in the Classic Trial. Not too fussed about William Buick taking Yabir because he did in the Classic Trial, and hopefully James Doyle will be jocked up on board Adayar. I'd have to see Uncle Bryn bounce back after that. I think it was a pretty disappointing performance. I wouldn't be able to back him with any confidence. I know the bookies haven't given any room to give there with his price. It's still very short. Aidan obviously has 5 entered, which is intriguing to see. A, who goes, and B, who's jocked up. Where the one who intrigues me is Baton Rouge, who won nicely on his reappearance at Dundalk. He's by Galileo, full brother to Breeders' Cup Turf winner, Magician, so should appreciate the step up in trip. But for me, it's not too much of a race I'll be getting involved with. But if Adeo goes, I think he'll win.
Yeah, there's one at a big price that I did want to give a mention. It's 16 to 1 for the Fahey Hannigan team. That's Pythagoras. Who was actually in that blue ribbon trial, took a very keen hold. Now, this horse had 4 runs last season. 3 of them was 3rd at Ayr. That same time at Ayr took a very keen hold. And I think if they can get this horse to settle, I think he'll outrun his odds at 16 to 1. So it's Adire for myself and Jack, but Pythagoras I think could run a huge race at 16s. Right, now on to the Ormonde Stakes. This is over a mile and 5 furlongs. Japan is back out here. Your 6 to 4 favourite. Trushan is 4 to 1. Twilight Payment, not 100% sure whether we'll see him here. He's 5 to 1. Mirando is 8. Roberto Escobar is 10 to 1 and 12 to 1 and bigger the rest. There's a horse in here, Jack, that I do fancy, and that's Mirando, who actually won this race back in 2019. Obviously, we didn't actually have this race last season. It was cancelled due to coronavirus, but he won this by 8 lengths, beating Kew Gardens and also the 2018 Chester Cup winner in Magic Circle. He's a course and distance winner. I think if he gets the draw with Sylvester de Souza on board, I think he's a hell of a price. 8 to 1. I thought he was way too overpriced, but I know that Japan is a decent sort of older horse for O'Brien. Are you with the favourite here, or do you think there's something at the price you could take him on with?
I'm not going anywhere near this race if I'm being honest. I've had enough of my fingers getting burnt at Newmarket over the weekend. It's a very, very odd race. Mirando, I think, would be the pick of the bunch for me, but he's 8 years old, and 5 and 6 year olds are usually the one to take this. Of course, Japan is the best horse in the race, but he got so many things wrong last year, didn't he? I don't know. I wouldn't be backing him, especially on reappearance. He was quite disappointing in the Prince of Wales. I thought it was a very open race, and if he did have the quality which he possessed at 3, he should have really taken that. But then I don't know if I could oppose him because Trushan gives him £5. As I say, Mirando's 8 years old. It's a bit of a mess. Aiden's won this recently with 3 short price favourites, so Japan could complete that trend. But I don't want to go anywhere near it personally.
Okay, nothing from Jack in this race, but I'm going to be siding with Mirando each way in the Ormonde Stakes. We move on to Friday now on the Huxley Stakes, the Group 2 of the week, over 1.25 miles. Sangarius is your 5-2 favourite. Japan is also in here, is 11-4. Armory is 3-1. Illarab is 4-1. Forest of Dean is 7s. Bangkok 8s and 12-1. And bigger the rest. Now, one horse I will give a quick mention for in this race at a big price. I don't actually fancy it, but I'd love to see it run well. You probably noticed from our thumbnail of this video, Marwan Kukash has Restore in here. He's 9 years old, but he's had 4 runs here, 1 win, 2 seconds, and 1 fourth. You cannot write off these Marwan Kukash horses. And, well, you know, Jack and I aren't previewing the other race, but he's sure to have a few horses placed, or if not, at least win in some of the handicaps over the week. He just loves it there. Jack, it's not a race that I really wanted to touch on too much, but I hear your bet of the week might come here.
It does, yeah. First of all, I think we'll start. Japan won't go. We'll think he's going for the Ormonde Stakes. A mile 2 is probably a little bit too sharp of a test for him nowadays. Sangarius is an odd one for me. Beat Bangkok at Lingfield, but he's never really been able to juggle with the big boys, I like to say. Whenever he gets in the ring with the big boys, whether it was the Dewhurst as a 2-year-old, the Brigadier Gerard Stakes last year at 3, I think this company may be a little bit too hot for him. But yeah, you're right, Sam. I do think my bet of the week comes here, and that's Armory. No matter if it's...
Hold on. Form enhancement here. There is a form enhancement for one horse and one horse only going into the Cox Plate this year. And that's Sir Dragonet. That's it. You've literally done it there, and you know you've done it because the horse was second to him last time out.
See, I'm going to go for his form and completely leave out his race last time out. And I was just going to hope you didn't pick it up that he was second to Sir Dragonet, but of course you are, because you're a Sir Dragonet badger.
It's in my notes.
No, honestly. God. Where do I go from here then? No, he's been able to struggle with big boys at 2 and 3. I mean, of course, the likes of Pinatubo, Victor Ladorum, as a 2-year-old, he's been able to stay with. I mean, didn't quite stay with Pinatubo in the national stakes. I think he lost by 6 lengths on the day. But last year, he was 4th in the Irish 2000 Guineas, followed by a good 4th in the Irish Gold Cup, and then 3rd in the Irish Champion Stakes. Now, looking at that form, he's sandwiched in between the highest rated horse of last year on earth, Gaiath, and obviously the ARC winner, Sotsas. So that is, I think that's the best form in the race. I think he's proven he handles the trip, and I think he's going to be very tough to beat if he does repeat that form. He's 3-1, and for me, that is the bet of the week.
Yeah, there we go. Jack's bet of the week. I do actually agree with Jack. I think that the 4th from that Irish Champion Stakes, it's not a bet for myself, but yeah, he's beating the likes of Sotsas and even Japan as well in that race. So for Jack, Armory, the bet of the week for him in the Huxley Stakes. Right, now on to the big highlight of the week, the handicap, the Chester Cup over 2.25 miles. Your favourite here has actually been well backed over the last few months, and that's Al Migwa, who is your 5-1 favourite. Postilio is 8-1, Not So Sleepy is 10s, Golden Rules is 10s, Future Investment 12s, Rajinski is 14s, Elysian Flame 14s, Rare Groove is 16s, and it's around 18, 20-1 and bigger the rest. The one in here that first of all caught my eye was Not So Sleepy, a horse that is a bit of a nutcase and will probably go off on the front end. Actually won the Dee Stakes here back in 2015. And since then, it's been going over hurdles. Actually won the Betfair Exchange Trophy handicap hurdle just before Christmas. Ascot, impressive style at a big price. Elysian Flame and Al Migwa, they actually met last time out. I think Elysian Flame received £4 that day, only receives 2 this time around. There's only a neck in it. I actually do think Elysian Flame might be overpriced, but the one in here that I put my hand down and said, you know, I really fancy this horse. If he gets the draw, I think he's got a major chance. So that's Nate the Great in here for Andrew Balding, ridden by David Provert. Ran on so well in the Queen's Cup. I've watched that run back, and I do think that this distance here will be absolutely perfect. Actually ran at Ascot over 2 mile 5 furlongs. I think that was just a little bit too far for this horse, but we know this horse can stay. And he's only been raced £1 from that Queen's Cup run. But a big price. I think that sort of 20, if you can get any bigger than that about this horse, then I think he's a cracking each way bet. But the mad thing is, this might be the biggest price selection that Jack and I both agree on, because Jack's going to tell you now that he also fancies Nate the Great out here.
Yeah, I know it's mad, isn't it? 22-1 you can get about Nate the Great, and we both agree on him. Yeah, of course, for Andrew Boring. He had a really good 3 and 4 year old campaign, as you say. He reached a rating of 101, was quite lightly raced last year. Been running really well at Wolverhampton, especially over 2 miles. 12 of the last 18 winners had won over 2 miles, which obviously isn't great for the 4-year-olds. But I think he's 6 years old now. He ran really well in the Queen's Cup, as you said. He ticks all the boxes for me, and the step up to this trip should be okay. A couple of stats to throw at you. I quite like Almigua at the front of the market, but you've only had 4 winning favourites since 1975, is the case with the Chester Cup. So he's quite hard to back from that respect, especially at such a short price. And in the last 40 years, only 7 horses have won with more than 9 stone 2 on their back. And there's a lot there that I quite like. You have Hockfeld, he's been in flying form at the moment. He's carrying more than that. You've got Cardano as well for Ian Williams. Really like Cardano. Cardano was running really well at Lingfield. Ryan Moore's been jocked up, interestingly. He's got a rating of 100. I quite like Cardano as a horse. I think he's probably carrying a little bit too much of a weight. I like him to run very well, though. But for me, it is Nate the Great for Andrew Boarding at 22-1.
Yeah, and David Provat's actually a jockey. I think he's got so much talent. A jockey that I think he keeps on improving season upon season. I think he's a cracking jockey. So for myself and Jack in the Chester Cup at 22-1, an agreement on Nate the Great. That's it for our video this week. Hopefully, Jack and I found you a couple of winners at Chester. We'll be back on Thursday for our preview of the Lingfield Oaks and Derby Trial meeting. Hopefully we see our next English king. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of people raving on about the Derby winner from the week and the Lingfield Derby Trial. Next week we've got our feature video, which will be the Dante Festival preview. We'll then have the Lockinge preview after that. And then coming up the 3rd of June, Jack and I will be launching our new look to this channel. We'll be in a studio for our Oaks and Derby preview, which is going to be a really fantastic video. And then moving on from that, our big video will be Sunday the 13th of June, our Royal Ascot preview. We're going to be joined by the Finishing Line and Oisin Murphy. We're really looking forward to that video. But thanks so much for the support so far. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, give this video a like, and we will see you again on Thursday for our weekend preview. Thanks for watching.